Welcome to Speak Up, the sustainability podcast hosted by Apparel. We take a step behind the scenes of organisations large and small to discover their journey towards sustainability, highlighting their challenges, triumphs and plans for the future. In this episode, we're welcoming someone from an organisation we're very passionate about. Whilst our previous guests have been representing businesses, today's guest is actually from one of our very first charity partners, St Kilda Mums. They collect, sort and redistribute essential products for babies, children and families in need. After working over 10 years in some massive Australian businesses, she began to step away from corporate life and decided to volunteer her skills to St Kilda Mums. And now, 5 years later, she's helped them grow and flourish by developing awesome partnerships like with Apparel. So enough of my rambling, as I'm sure she'll explain this far better than I ever could. Please welcome today's guest, Gill Whelan. Hi, Gill. How are you going?
I'm great, Tina. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on our podcast today. As I mentioned, St Kilda Mums was one of our first ever partnerships, and just like our guest last week, Luke, I wasn't in the business when he first came on board because I was on maternity leave. But when I heard Michael came home and told me all about St Kilda Mums, and I was really excited about this partnership because, I'm a mum of three, and I know these products and that you provide are essential and unfortunately just not readily available to so many families across the country, in the state. So I'd love to hear more about where St Kilda Mums, how it started and where it all came from.
Yeah, sure. So St Kilda Mums is now 12 years old.
Wow.
I've been involved with them for a number of those years, well, most of those years actually, so it still sort of blows my mind about how we started and where we've come from. Mm-hmm. And essentially it started on the front porch of our founder, Jessie McPherson's house.
Amazing.
Yeah, so she was a mum with a new baby, mm-hmm. and with her at her local maternal child health centre, she was there with her baby one day, and there was a photocopy room that was full of donated clothes, mm-hmm. that the health nurses were redistributing to people in the area, and being sort of the organiser that she was, she thought she could tidy that up and help them be distributed. So that's where the idea was started. She started creating clothing bundles, and from there it grew to getting locals to donate their prams and car seats and high chairs and things like that. They dropped them off at her porch and she'd help distribute them via social service agencies throughout St Kilda. So that's how the name came about. It was founded by a group of St Kilda mums.
Yeah, I think just when I thought about it, and then now I've seen, I guess something we'll touch on a bit later, but the organisation has grown so much in the last 12 years. And I without reading anything, I thought about the name, and I thought, it must have, I guess that's probably where the story sort of the name came from.
And we used to be based in St Kilda, so we've gradually sort of increased in size, and we went from operating out of Jessie's front garden to going to this sort of little garage in Elwood, and then we got some space in St Kilda, and then we got the warehouse space across the road, outgrew all of those, and now we're in a big warehouse in Clayton, just to sort of confuse things even more. But
not too far from us, actually.
Yes, just around the corner. And we're actually statewide now. So we're actually St Kilda Mums Inc., and we have a branch in Geelong, and we have one in Ballarat, and we also have a regional service. So really what we're doing is helping families right across Victoria.
That is incredible. And thinking about it, I kind of feel like it's so similar to our story. We started out of our spare bedroom and then moved to a bigger space, which wasn't that huge. And, I think this is our fourth or fifth warehouse.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's a very similar story. But you mentioned that St Kilda Mums started about 12 years ago, and you came on board about 5 years ago. How have you sort of, been involved in that development in the last 5 years? That's probably when it's really grown.
So I actually came on board as a volunteer prior to that. So I was working after I'd had my children, and I'd lived a little bit overseas, and then came back and was really looking for a way, to re-enter the workforce, and also to reconnect with my community because I felt a little bit on the outside. So getting involved in a charity ended up being a life-changing experience for me.
Yeah.
I was working at some other I went back into work at other companies, but just kept on volunteering with St Kilda Mums and realised that was where my passion lay.
Yeah.
And then started helping, went into a paid role to help develop our workplace volunteering program. So I started working with corporates and with partners in that space, getting them to come in and spend a day volunteering with us, and then gradually built some partnerships through that, and then progress into partnerships and now into sort of PR as well.
I think that's really cool. I know, we've got our board of directors, for example, they actually go into organisations similar to St Kilda Mums, but helping more disadvantaged adults and whatnot, and they go in and they help them out, and they dress them and whatnot, and it's just really cool. It's a really incredible experience for them just to not really put themselves in their shoes for a day, but just listen to these people, and it's a real eye-opening experience.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And volunteering with your workplace, I'll put this plug in right now, is an exceptional way to really understand the way a charity works when you spend a whole day with them. You're also, working with your team and understanding different things about your colleagues, which it brings out a lot of different ideas and perceptions in your colleagues, which is really amazing.
So true.
Yes, and it's a great way for senior management to really lead the way for their staff in showing what it means to give back, demonstrating what it means to give back, and having that real top-down approach so that others feel comfortable taking a day out of the office to do the same thing, and all sort of really understanding what your actions in just one day can mean to like families in need.
That's just incredible. I know from our experience, I guess the staff almost, they don't really volunteer in here, but it's we'll have days where we all go into the warehouse and sort, and it's a really great experience for everyone. It's the conversation's different, and
definitely.
we think about different ways we could be doing things, and so it's even though we're not volunteering externally, it's something that we do in here.
Yeah, we did the same thing during COVID because we were, as admin staff, were working from home. Our operational staff were still on site, but one day a week we'd come in and work in the warehouse.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Everyone would have just loved seeing each other as well.
It was really good.
So are you able to tell me, I guess, within that massive growth period, what sort of challenges did St Kilda Mums face with that growth? Did you feel any sort of challenges from that?
It's really been about I think growing our volunteer workforce has always been really important to us. We can't do what we do without volunteers. They're really we have an amazing array of volunteers from teenage kids who come in and come back regularly, right up to some elderly people who've been volunteering with us for a long time, and they have some amazing skills now, and we really rely on them. So upskilling our volunteers and growing that volunteer workforce. I think growing, utilising technology to help us grow has been super important, and we've had a real focus on that. Our founder, Jessie, luckily kept that very much at the forefront of what we did. So there's been some challenges, but technology's really helped us to grow in that respect, to be able to track our impact and manage our service and manage our volunteer program all through with the use of technology. And other than that, I think it's just what we're always trying to do, and is still challenging, is to meet the need.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, I guess. How can we reach all of those families in Victoria that need our help? And that's our constant challenge, and that's our constant strategy, I guess.
I guess that also comes down to your partnerships, and So in saying that, what would you say? You've got so many partners, and I'm no doubt you're grateful to every single one of them. But what would you say? What's one of the partnerships that you're most proud of?
I think
I know it's a tough question because you just love all of them.
We do, and we've got some really special, amazing partners. I mean, I'll say DeCuba here because I know that they've really recently come on board with you guys as well, and they're fantastic, and we have very close, heartfelt relationships with a number of our partners, and DeCuba is a great example. But I think I'll use Zendesk as an example. Okay. So they are a tech company. They're a global brand, and they have a head office based in Melbourne. And they're a great example of growing a partnership right from grassroots, and that was for us having them come in and volunteer. So Megan, who I still work with today, who was sort of establishing their CSR program, knew about us because she's a mum, and her mother's group knew about us. She started speaking about us in her workplace. Yeah. They started bringing in workplace teams who came and really connected with what we did.
So cool.
And through that and growing those partnerships and relationships, they as a company could really understand what we were doing during a particularly critical growth period. Yeah. And worked out ways that they could help. They saw that we needed some help with some technology and some software. They saw that we needed more volunteers, so they upped the ante with sending workplace volunteers. They knew that we were trying to get a big event off the ground, so they sponsored that. And then they also just understood that we needed financial support and that they could trust us to do the best possible thing we could do with it, untied, not with no strings attached, go do good with this money. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, and we've just grown and grown that partnership. It's been really amazing. They are definitely like family to us, and it's very special to me because it sort of started in that way. But it's also an excellent example of the pathway to bigger partnerships by starting off at that really sort of more basic level.
I feel like starting off at that, I feel like the best partnerships start off at that level. You know, when you cold call and reach out to a company, they're really not interested. I'd say our best partnerships are the ones that have come to us, and that's because as an organisation, as a company, they're ready to begin their journey towards a more sustainable future. And so if they're not ready, then it's just not going to work.
Yes, and you can work out plans to guide them too. But I think it's when they're really invested from the get-go, and which is why lockdowns were hard for us, not being able to have people come and see what we do. You know,
I think it's really important.
That was difficult, but they're an amazing partner. We're very grateful to have them on board.
So once everything's sort of collected and brought into the warehouse and it's been sorted, I guess the process after that is then distributing them out to the people that need them. Yeah. So I guess how do you find these people? How do you get in contact with them?
So what we do is we actually don't have direct contact with the families that we support. So we work in partnership with social service agencies and maternal child health nurses and centres across Victoria. So it's everything from large scale organisations like Red Cross right down to some much smaller niche grassroots community aid organisations. So as long as they're registered with us, we've sort of, they've been vetted by us, they're registered with us, then any family that comes and seeks support from them that they think that we could help, we're able to help. So they put in a request. They'll be working closely with the family. They'll identify what their needs are. They put in a request and then they will work as a liaison to get those items to the family. So that's been the model that we've worked with from the get-go, and it's always worked really well because what it does is helps those professionals build those relationships with families. Yeah. And they're going into the home. They're able to sort of really assess what the needs are.
Yes.
And it maintains the dignity of the families as well.
Definitely.
So, that model works really well for us.
Yeah. And so I guess everyone wants to donate because it makes them feel good, and they also, I guess they they want to see someone else use something that they're done with, I guess. But I'm sure you receive a lot of items that are not fit for reuse, or this is a bit done for. So what do you guys do with items that aren't really usable when you receive them?
I guess I'll go back a step and just and say that what we really try and do is to stop those items from getting to us in the first place.
That's ultimately, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so what we're trying to do is educate people about, really carefully about the items that we can and can't rehome. Mm-hmm. And I think that the best way to have people thinking about what's worthy of donating is actually to think about the recipient when they're receiving it.
Yes.
So if you don't know what to do with your broken toy and you think, I won't put it in the bin, I'll try and donate it to charity, have a think about that child, who would receive a broken toy.
Yeah.
And so that should really get you thinking about, okay, should this really go in the bin, or should this go, or be recycled or donated to charity? So we like to think, what would you donate to your sister or to your best friend if they needed something?
Yeah.
Having said all that, obviously there are some things that end up making their way to us which are unsuitable. The number one thing we're trying to do is keep items out of landfill.
Yes.
So wherever possible, we'll recycle for parts. We have partners in all sorts of different spheres which help us upcycle things if possible, or reuse them for different things. And we're just trying to make sure that as few things as possible end up in landfill.
Yeah, I totally get that. We try and, I guess, educate as much as we possibly can, and we have a really strong sort of ethos here in our warehouse, and our warehousing team knows that, if it's not good enough for them, or if it's not good enough for them to gift, then it's not good enough to go to charity. It's not good enough to be given to someone that's disadvantaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
we like to think of everything that we give out to families as a beautiful gift.
Yes,
and so
I love that.
Yeah, it's packaged that way. Everything is packaged beautifully. It's really so nice. Lovingly prepared by volunteers. So all the clothing packages are beautifully presented.
Yeah.
Everything is incredibly clean. A pram or a car seat looks impeccable because we want it to be received with love as a gift.
Yeah,
so that people
really
feel
beautiful.
Really dignified and cared for, rather than thinking maybe, I'm ashamed because I'm receiving a charity item. We're trying to change the narrative on that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because otherwise people won't ask for help. So we want to encourage people to ask for help, and so that they'll feel empowered when they receive that help.
Yeah, I get it. Totally. Now, I'm going to jump a bit to you and talk about your journey from corporate to social enterprise.
Yeah, not-for-profit,
because I think it's an incredible journey. And so you started off in the fashion industry.
I was in media first.
Okay.
and then I went into fashion, and yes, learnt a lot, and yes, exciting, but I think I just got to a point. I'd had young children by this point. I think you question things a little bit more, and I was looking
constantly.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to use my skills in a more rewarding way, and by this point I was already volunteering at St Kilda Mums, and I just gradually found that I really always wanted to be there.
Yes.
And so I sort of embarked on a bit of a pathway to try and make that my paid job.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's promoted enough for younger people and for women especially, that there's some really rewarding and great jobs in not-for-profit, and it's a great career too. Yeah. I've had great career progression myself, and all of those skills that I've learned in other industries I can put to use here, and really make a difference. Every day that I come to work, I know that I'm doing work that's rewarding.
Yeah.
And I can see firsthand that it's impacting people's lives. And so that's ultimately what made me seek out a career in not-for-profit and stay in it.
I mean, even though your company's not for profit, I believe that there are so many skills that you would have brought from your career. How would you say that you would have applied? There's so much stuff that you would have learnt that are just so relevant.
Yeah.
Even though it's not for profit, it's still an organisation that needs to run and function just as a one that is for profit does. So how would you say I guess what skills would you say were so important?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm predominantly in partnerships, and that's essentially a sales role. So
100%.
You know, all my media sales experience has absolutely stood me in good stead. Everything with networking, stakeholder relationships, all that kind of thing, I put to use every single day.
Yeah.
And working in fashion, there was a lot to do with publicity and PR, and now my role also encompasses PR as well. So definitely all of those skills are applied. You need those business skills to successfully run a not-for-profit and 100%. Be in management in not-for-profit. So,
it's, I'd say, it might even be even harder.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So St Kilda Mums impact last year, this is an incredible figure. You rehomed over 60,000 items valued at over $7 million. What would you say the majority of those items were?
Look,
I know it's so
we rehome a lot of items, and there's definitely a lot of clothing in there.
Yes,
but there's also, I think, the key important items that we rehome are prams, cots, car seats. Those items which are really essential for safety.
Yes.
So that focus on a baby having a safe place to sleep and a safe way to travel is always number one for us. So we put a lot of resources into trying to procure those, whether it's through donations or whether it's through business partnerships.
Yes.
And when we don't have them, we're fundraising to try and buy them from our suppliers because they're crucial for safety. So I'd say the majority of it is those items, and those figures tell one story, but they're also telling a story about all of the items that are safe from landfill.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, all of those things were rehomed, and a lot of them had a second chance, a third chance at life, giving families amazing opportunity. Yeah. And, these goods that they've treasured, and sometimes they were found on hard rubbish.
Yes. It's funny, it's not funny, but, you'd be driving down the street and you'll just see a car seat sitting on the front lawn in front of someone's home, and it's like, well, why is that there? That could have gone to
I think a lot of it is
it's
an education.
Yes,
it's people understanding about us.
Yeah.
And
people are just hearing about us as well as organisations and what we can do and how we can help them and how St Kilda Mums can help them. And for as many people that don't know you, there's also that many people that do. So it's educating, it's spreading the word, and I guess hopefully, every time we post about St Kilda Mums, more people find out, and
that's it. It's spreading the word. It's one of the easiest, when
it's the best tool.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And one of the best ways to help a charity is to talk about them to other people.
Yes. So earlier on, you briefly touched on technology and how that had helped St Kilda Mums. Are you able to elaborate a bit on that and how you used it to increase your impact and I guess the whole how it's helping the whole organisation sort of function?
Sure. There's sort of a couple of different angles to that. I think traditionally charities have been a little bit slow on the uptake with technology, and they're often playing catch up. And we were a little bit different in that our founder and former CEO Jessie sort of is a real tech whiz, and so she built the charity with technology.
Yeah, it's just from the get-go. It makes everything a lot easier than trying to start a new system.
Absolutely. So it's been built into, all the volunteers and all of the staff from the get-go. And we've been able to track impact from the get-go and also streamline our service and the way that we run things just to make it easier. So that's one aspect of it that's been amazing. I think also we were really early adopters of using social media.
Yes.
So, we've got an amazingly engaged following now, and we use it, it's obviously very important for us for fundraising and for awareness and for soliciting donations and all those kinds of things. And I think we used it very effectively from the start. It's a little rough around the edges, but that's what people respond to. Yeah. We've never had, this really sort of focused plan for social media that's weeks in the making.
Oh, look, I can't say we do either. We've always wanted to be more proactive than reactive, but it doesn't. Look, it just doesn't. it just doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for us because we just don't, you know.
It depends what happens in a day.
Yes.
Right, I know. And we're the same. We're very much the same. And I think that people respond to that. They've always been able to see us really authentically, and they can see what happens in a day.
That makes you more authentic, I believe. I think that, you know, if we're planning our posts like a month in advance, we've got a 4-week sort of lead time. It's very artificial.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we love to show the daily ins and outs.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so
you know,
too.
if you see a post of St Kilda Mums van at our door, that literally happened yesterday, you know. So I think that was a few weeks ago anyway. That post, But
that's the same. And then the third thing is we developed an app that we've it's called the Baby Safe app, and it's you know, harking back to what I was talking about, how having safety is a priority, which is a priority in everything that we do. We do rehome secondhand items like cots and prams, but we do have a very stringent safety checking process around that to make sure that they meet Australian standards and are you know, are obviously safe. And so we've just started to put all of our knowledge on about these products into an app that's available for anybody to download, and they can see if they're looking at purchasing a secondhand product, they can go back and check to see, has it been recalled.
That's really clever.
Yeah.
That's
and then
really,
also,
really clever.
We've got sister organisations doing similar work to us all around the country, and they can also use it as well when that pram gets donated or a cot gets donated, and just double check and see. And it's all there in a database, which is updated all the time. So it's a great resource.
That's a fantastic resource, because I know myself, I'm very conscious about what I'm buying, and I would look into a secondhand pram, buying it off, Facebook Marketplace, for example. And, you can always be very wary about that sort of stuff. So to have a resource that I can refer back to like that is so handy.
And we encourage people to buy things secondhand. You know, this is what it's obviously, once again, it's, trying to reuse and recycle things that are already in existence.
Be less wasteful as well.
That's it. So it's a good resource. Yeah.
So I guess coming back into, upcycling, not being wasteful, there's this story that I absolutely love, and it's about Rob and his legendary cotology skills. Are you able to tell us more about that?
Yes.
It's a really great.
So Rob is a volunteer with us. He's volunteered with us for a number of years. Gosh, it must be 6 years or more by now. And we very affectionately refer to him as our chief cotologist, and he does wear a name tag that says such. Rob's a great story about a volunteer who sort of happened upon St Kilda Mums one day. He was literally walking past and stuck his head in the door and asked a question, and someone said to him, actually, can you just come in and give us a hand for a minute?
I love that.
Yeah.
It was just a...
Yeah, and he was sort of, he'd retired and was at a bit of a loss with, what to do with his time. And he's just honestly never left.
Oh,
and
that's a great story.
Yeah.
Do we have any of those walking by? I'm going to...
Keep an eye out. They're gems if you can find them. And so he has now built this, a little workshop at the back of our warehouse. And he has, a group of volunteers he works with regularly, often, older men who all come together, and that's really special for them. Yeah. But he also, when we have corporate volunteers or school kids in, he gets them in and they help him out. And he just absolutely lovingly restores cots right back to their original condition.
Wow.
So, someone might donate a cot that's had, when babies are teething and they chew on it or they put stickers all over it or, all that kind of crazy stuff. So he, sands them back and varnishes them and brings the cot manufacturer to get replacement parts and very loving and dedicated, and restores these cots back to new.
That's incredible. Yes. I'm just going to touch on that really quickly, because we live in this world where things are becoming more accessible because they're cheaper. Yeah. And in saying that, the quality of the product is just not there. So a lot of these cots, I know when I had my first boy in 2015, we went to,
Baby Bunting or something. Yeah.
Went to Baby Bunting and, splurged and bought this really beautiful cot. cot. Now, that's really great quality and that has the ability to be restored. But I know maybe, a few years down the track, they're popping up in large retailers and they're not that great. Have you found that? Are you starting to receive that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. We can see that there's certain items, cots, yes, and prams also, that are really they're just built to last for 2 or 3 years, which is shocking.
Yeah.
and we sort of more and more are starting to think about this idea of, conscientiously purchasing things so that you're thinking, about sustainability down the track. So is it going to last, if you're anticipating having more than one child, is it going to last the duration?
Yeah.
And then can you pass it on to somebody else?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it at the end of its life cycle? Can it be recycled? Is it going to just disintegrate or be useless? All of those things that we probably really should be thinking about more often. Hence the move to wooden toys and less plastic toys. Yes. Hence the move to clothing that's better quality, not such fast fashion. All of those different touch points where people are starting to think about the end of life for a garment or for an item, and not just what it's doing for you right now.
Yes, and yes, that's so true. My father had a saying that he always used, his own saying, and it was "buy it good and buy it once."
That's exactly right.
And it is so true.
We've lost sight of that a bit, right?
Yeah, but he was very, he would splurge, but he didn't have to continuously keep buying things because he would invest in something, and it really really held up.
We see it a lot in the clothing that gets donated to us. So you unless it's purchased new and donated to us, you don't see a lot of those really cheap items come through because they don't last.
No.
But you see a lot of the more expensive brands, which arguably are better quality, they sort of hold up a little bit, and then they come through because they're good enough quality to be donated.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible, and I think people we need to continuously do our job to educate about being conscious about the end of life of something, and really think about how's this going to hold up,
and how much of something do you really need.
Yes.
Yeah, we see that a lot too.
Yes.
There's so much that gets donated to us that people have bought for their first, I think we're all a bit victim of this, for your first baby.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't,
Not me. I'm not me. Not me.
or the excessive gifting that we do.
I think we're doing all baby showers. These things weren't around. I'd say baby showers are something in Australia from the last 10 years.
Do you know what we are seeing more and more, which is delightful, is, you rather than calling it a baby shower, or you can call it that, but it's a celebration of, the impending birth.
Yes.
But you give to charity. Yes. And you collect the things and you give them to charity instead, especially for people who really have everything that they need.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of people do that, and that they'll say bring a packet of nappies or bring a specific number of things, and they have the celebration, but they give it to a mum who's less fortunate, who's not having a baby shower.
That's really wonderful.
What a beautiful way to celebrate the birth of your child.
Yes.
Is also to help another child.
By giving. That's really lovely. So lockdowns.
Yeah.
And we've just come out of another huge lockdown that I naively thought that it would never happen to us again. I didn't think we would live through that again.
Yeah, I know. We're still traumatised.
Yeah. So how did St Kilda Mums go through that period? I guess the importance of volunteers, and also, how did the people's needs change during that time? And did you see this vast increase of people in need?
Yeah, absolutely we did. We saw, I'll answer that part of the question first.
Sorry, I just sort of threw it all at you.
I'll get to all of it. I'll work backwards. So we I think the thing that stood out to us is that we saw a lot of people have to ask for help who'd never asked before.
Yeah. And that's not always easy.
Always easy. But, it was sort of luck of the draw with COVID, wasn't it? If you got impacted or not, depending on what kind of profession you were in.
Yes.
And if there was a double income family that was in, say, airlines and, hospitality.
Yes.
Suddenly there's just, no money coming in.
Shocking.
So that was one thing. We saw an increase in causes of disadvantage around mental health and family violence, sadly. So the need, yes, definitely grew. And meanwhile, we're in lockdown, which means that we, as an essential service, we can operate, but we can't have anyone dropping off donations and we can't have any volunteers in the warehouse. So
it's how you kind of
how on earth
operate.
are we, how do we keep, our number one thing is how do we keep funds coming in?
Yes.
We couldn't have any corporate volunteers and that's an income stream for us as well.
Okay.
So that was tricky. And we couldn't hold any fundraising events. So all of these things we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to counteract those? So we really had to tap in to our relationships with the community, essentially, and with our corporate partners and with our donors. And we had to put our hands up and say, we need your help more than ever.
Yeah.
And we were really blunt in the way that we said how important that was. And we asked and asked and asked again, unashamedly, and people helped us.
I appreciate that though.
Yeah. I think sometimes people you just need to be asked and you need to realise how, that it was crucial. And so we were very lucky and I think we very much as an organisation felt that we kind of reaped what we'd sown over all of those years of bringing people along with us on a journey of growth and really instilling in our supporters a sense of community, and it was a time where it really paid off for us and helped us to manage our way through it. And that meant that you couldn't drop off donations, but people just shopped online and shipped it to us.
That
in amazing ways.
Yeah.
They sent things in they looked through their cupboards and then sent things in the post. They organised couriers to come and pick up their cots and prams and things.
Wow.
Our business partners, said, okay, we'll find. You need 10 prams tomorrow. We'll find them and we'll send them to you. Our corporate partners who were due to sponsor big events for us said, let's work out other ways we can redirect the funds.
Yeah.
And then our Christmas appeal last year ended up being our most successful yet. People just dug deep and really helped. And
that's really special.
And they saw that we were able to keep helping all those families that were being impacted. And I think that those, there was clearly some people that COVID didn't affect so much, that lockdowns didn't affect so much. They were, white-collar workers who could work from home. I mean, everyone was impacted in some way, but sometimes not financially.
Yeah, I think financially, mental health is a huge thing.
Yes.
And, so for the people that were impacted financially, not only were they impacted financially, but they were also impacted with their mental health.
Yes.
And that it was like the double whammy.
Yes.
So to then have other people that weren't impacted so much to dig deep and to help.
And we really saw that. So it was although it's been a very difficult, past sort of year and a half for all of us, I think we as an organisation felt amazingly supported by the community and were able to demonstrate how we also could then support those people who were really, in dire need and couldn't work out how they were going to even leave the hospital with somewhere safe for their baby to sleep. And that happens more often than you'd ever imagine.
It's kind of heartbreaking. I've got 3 children and I couldn't, it sort of breaks my heart to think that a mother that's it's supposed to be one of the happiest times of her life and that she might be worrying about running out of nappies before she even gets to her home.
Yeah, or how to dress her child warmly.
Yes. It's those little things that maybe a lot of people don't think of because they don't need to.
Yeah.
So I guess the future is bright.
Yes.
Let's what are the plans? How does St Kilda Mums plan to increase their impact?
Yeah.
Over the next 5 years.
So this is what we're addressing right now. We're looking at we're working on our strategic plan for the next 10 years right now. We feel like we've got we've just had a new CEO start this year, which is super exciting. Great to have a new fresh vision.
Yes.
And I think we're all coming out of lockdown, we're very excited about what the future holds for our organisation. And, we're putting plans in place to really, like I said before, address that need of how do we reach more people? How do we have our service get into every single corner of Victoria and possibly further? And how are we going to increase our impact? So there'll be some, no doubt, once we get everything lined up, that we'll have some great, exciting announcements early next year, and we'll be able to, start that sort of next phase of our life and our journey. Yeah,
I'm sure there's going to be so many exciting things happening and in the pipeline.
Yes,
we can't wait to see this huge expansion of
great.
St Kilda Mums. So how can our listeners and our very engaged community help St Kilda Mums?
Yeah, so there's lots of great ways that you can help. Like I said before, there's super easy ways to talk about the work that we do and to share it. And so talk about it with your friends and your family, share our social media posts, that kind of thing. That's a really great, simple way. If you've got items to donate, then please think about doing that. And there's lots of information on our website about how you can really do that easily. Come and volunteer with us, whether it's as an individual with your school mums, bring your kids, or as a workplace team. That's we need all hands on deck at the moment. There's since we've reopened from lockdown, there's so much stock that's come in, which is fabulous, but we need volunteers to help us to be able to process it all. And last but absolutely not least, we always need financial support.
Okay.
So think about making a financial donation. We can do a huge amount with a little. We can really make a dollar stretch a long way. It's all going.
And this can all get done via the website.
Everything, donate via the website. Any donation over $2 is tax deductible.
Awesome.
So always need that kind of support as well. But lots of different ways you can help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gill. It's been an absolute hoot for me. I hope you've had a good time.
I have. And thank you. It's great to partner with you guys too and work together so that we can, save items from going into landfill and getting them to families in need.
I am so excited to see where our partnership takes us as well with you guys. We're in a massive growth phase at the moment. So our partnership is only just the beginning, and I'm so excited to see where it takes us.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
That was good chat.
Bloody hell.
It's hot under there.